The final chapter of our book study looks at the implementation of what would have been called a few years back a paradigm shift. Now that we've bought into the idea that financially disadvantaged students can learn, we can successfully implement the 5 share factors. Next is the challenge to sort through the many new strategies and apply them in our classrooms, knowing how and when to do each thing. Mr. Hawkins, the imaginary teacher who is counting down the years to his retirement in Chapter 1, has seen the light and is now on board. He takes us through a typical Monday and shows us how some of these new ideas can work in a classroom.
Here are some things Mr. Hawkins does before class. Mr. Hawkins spends time learning about each student and their personal interests in addition to collecting data to better help each student. He plans ahead of time by walking through each daily lesson, asking himself, how will I engage the students? How will I make this content come alive? How can I make this meaningful? Mr. Hawkins makes personal preparations by eating a healthy breakfast, hydrating before class, and listening to his favorite music to get into a positive frame of mind. He pays attention to acoustics and lighting, posts positive affirmations, and places useful content on his walls. He also plays upbeat, positive music as the students enter the classroom.
During the first 10 minutes of class, Mr. Hawkins follows a 6-step routine. He builds relationships by greeting each student with a positive affirmation. Mr. Hawkins plays a class song that is played while his kids are unpacking, getting settled, and when the class song ends, class starts. He works on boosting social status by sitting kids with teams. Each team has a name, a chair, a leader, and a weekly performance chart posted on the wall. Mr. Hawkins takes care of administrative tasks during this time. He has the team leaders give the attendance to him, and when they bring the attendance, he uses the time to appreciate one thing about them and give them one tip. He connects with real life and lets the students know something that happened during his weekend. He asks them to help him problem solve, and would you do this if you were me? Or how would you have done this differently? In the last part of his first 10 minutes, he does a short jump-starting the brain activity as a warm-up to review the lesson from the previous day.
During core class time, Mr. Hawkins uses a variety of strategies to keep his students engaged. Mr. Hawkins makes the topic relevant to his students' own lives and creates buy-in to engage students' interest. He also uses this time to build hope. For example, he might set a goal to ask 2 kids each day about their dreams and affirm them with confidence. Mr. Hawkins makes sure to build crucial learning skills as he teaches. He rotates through different strategies, such as how to create visual mind maps to organize their notes and maximize retention. Mr. Hawkins recognizes that one way to boost working memory is to include physical activity throughout the day. Every 12 to 15 minutes, he ensures his students are engaging in jigsaw activities, think, pair, share, kinesthetic math games, or this or that debates, just to name a few. Mr. Hawkins also knows that in order to get his students to be vested in the content, he needs to frame it well. Framing is the hook that catches the student's interest, creating an emotional invitation to learn. Framing requires that he connect the content to the backgrounds of his students. After choosing meaningful, essential questions derived from their standards, Mr. Hawkins assigns his students to a team. Each team collaborates to study one of the questions together. It becomes like a puzzle or challenge they need to solve, with a jigsaw at the end. He understands that mistakes are part of the learning process. He gives positive reinforcement to boost morale, but he also teaches how to identify errors and correct them, or to simply elaborate. He's found that this produces better results than lecturing. Students need the opportunity to learn from their own mistakes in a safe environment.
During the last 10 minutes of class time, Mr. Hawkins wisely sets aside this time. He reviews the content from the last 2 weeks in an easy-to-recall format, such as graphic organizers, callbacks, and rhymes. He makes sure that every student feels successful before they leave for the day. Mr. Hawkins assigns a short list of questions for the last 5 minutes of the day. This is an example of accommodation that levels the playing field and shows understanding of the world of poverty. He conducts more than a dozen class jobs in a productive way. For the last 2 minutes of class, teams know that it's time to get the class back in top shape. During the last minute of class, there's always time for an affirmation of teammates, a cliffhanger story for next time, or a brief visualization of success.
Mr. Hawkins focuses on more than just academics in his class. This may sound like more fluff than substance, but he uses class time to provide emotional support for his students. This motivates the students to work hard and has decreased behavior problems in his class. So, are you ready to accept the challenge? Together, we can make a difference.